What's up, guys? This is Keith Kelfis with the Untrapped podcast. On today's show, we got Cris, the founder, the owner of Tree Solutions. Awesome. He's a tree guy. He's an arborist here in Michigan. This guy climbs up like 80, 100-foot trees. He hangs from cranes and takes out like 10,000-pound trees over people's houses. He's awesome. He he worked at a company, an electrical company here in Michigan for years called DTE. It's a big company, and he's a DTE. Don't do that again because you're rubbing up against the mic. It sounds like he's a DTE power line certified like highline tree worker. So this dude learned how to professionally not risk his life over trees, and he's investing in his company and equipment. He's a Terminator. Because the first time I met him, I'm on a job doing a whole property maintenance deal, trimming all the trees. But there was this one big ass, I think it was an elm tree or something, and this thing was literally, we could trim most of it, but there was one just monster piece going out all the way over these primary power line wires, and I called up Cris because I knew him since we were younger, but through Eric Reno. Cris showed up in his truck. He brought his gear out, and I was like, he seems real confident. Is he sure he can do this? Because so the walking dude, I mean, right in front of the customer, climbs up a tree. I mean, we're all on the ropes, and he swings this whole branch out like this, and then drops it down perfectly into the yard. And I was like, whoa, okay, this guy is the shit. And he gave me a deal, and I was scared. What's up? This is Cris from Tree Solutions. You might have seen him in a previous vlog of mine, up in the big bucket truck, trimming trees and shit. What's up, Cris?
Not much. How you been, Keith?
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here, dude.
So, dude, you're crushing it. You just got what is that big-ass truck you got with the bucket?
It's international. Yeah, it's like a 65-foot bucket truck. It's pretty big by all means, but it's a nice piece of equipment to have.
Yeah, dude.
It makes things a lot easier.
So, we're going to get into a little bit. Talk about how you because he's crushing it right now. This guy's doing commercial work, like hundreds of trees in a complex, just raking it in. And you start out with a big vision. Every time I talk to Cris, he's like, dude, I want to go big. I want this, I want this, I want this. Like, he's not limited in his thinking. Talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I've never looked at it as if, like, a lot of people set goals, essentially, for themselves for the year. Just in general, somebody will say, I want to make X amount of dollars per year. I'll never limit myself. So I never put a cap on that amount. I'll just try to do as much as I possibly can every year. And it's paid off. Yeah, don't ever think small-minded, in my opinion. That's one of the biggest things that limited me in the beginning, was thinking small-minded. When you think on a small scale, your goals become realistic, and they shouldn't be. You should be trying to reach for unattainable goals, always, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And then you grew up poor, just like the rest of us. You had nothing handed to you.
No, absolutely nothing. Started off completely on my own. Yeah.
And so at the company that you worked at, I mean, I like, all of a sudden you got a dump truck and you got a chipper and you're doing it. And I'm like, how the hell did you just get all this equipment? So you saved?
Yeah. Yeah, I worked for a power company for a couple of years. I'm a journeyman for them also, but I had left there with the realization that, hey, this is what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to do it for someone else. I started to get bored doing it for somebody else, and actually going on my own was huge for me, at least in my opinion. It re-sparked my interest in everything, so I actually truly enjoy what I do again, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without them, though. The training and things that I received from there were much better now that I've been on my own for years and realized what competition is really like and things like that. By all means, safety is huge. A lot of guys fail to do simple little steps that they're risking their life for on a daily basis. Just little things that I would have not probably realized had I not been with such a big corporation or outfit prior to being on my own, which is a good thing, by all means. It helped me out a ton.
Yeah, dude. And with chainsaws, like, you got all the gear, all the equipment. You got from, top handle, a regular saw, all the way up to this. What is that chainsaw that you have that's like?
Oh, it's like the second biggest one to make. It's a 661 is what it is.
How long is the bar?
That one I think is 36 inch. It's
That's
3
like
foot.
This, dude.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I came with you to help because I got the dump trailer, and you're like, dude, come help haul off some logs because you removed this big ass maple at this complex.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, those.
It was huge. Yeah, those are some of the bigger ones. I like doing the bigger work, though, to be honest with you.
Why?
It's more my forte, I guess you can say. But yeah, that's what I've always done in my profession, was doing the actual more risky work, like to sit there and trim small prune trees and things like that. I'm just not, I do it by all means, absolutely, because we do complexes and HOAs and whatnot. But at the end of the day, yeah, I actually enjoy doing crane work and bigger removals.
Crane work.
Yeah.
So I came with you one time. We started working together a little bit. So if I have a big ass job that I can't do, I call Cris up, and then he comes and we'll all work and split the money up, which is pretty cool. It's a fun deal sometimes working with your friends. But
I actually enjoy it. It's fun.
I went on this job with you. It was a quote, actually. I think you got the job when we went in this lady's backyard. It was this monster silver maple growing in the middle of, it was like through a deck or something.
Yeah, through the middle of the deck. I remember that.
Did you guys end up doing that one?
Yep. Yeah, we did it. It was a crane job. We actually had to crane the entire thing piece by piece over the top of the house. There was nowhere else to take it. Yeah, I remember that one clearly. It's actually another friend's sister. Actually, that was her home. But it's very similar. We had to do a few crane jobs this year, actually. I did some for that complex that we were actually in as well. There was another one of them that we had to take down there, too. We've been back with the crane a few times, but it's actually, it's fun. I enjoy it. It's kind of cool being actually part of it. I mean, most people never see anything like that in their entire life at some point, but it's pretty neat to be out there.
To the point where the neighbors are standing outside like, what the hell?
Yeah, people videotape us constantly. It's funny. It's cool, though. I understand why.
So you like doing, I took some notes here, commercial work. It's stuff with higher ticket prices you're going after. I remember you told me you're going for the bigger work that some other tree guys just won't even mess with. Talk about that.
Oh, yeah, I'll go with, I guess, some of the bigger tree jobs that other guys won't mess with, because at the end of the day, you have to have a minimum. You need higher ticket items, things like that. When you have guys that are working with you or subcontracted for you, things like that, you have a minimum that you have to meet. If you're not meeting that and you're not profiting at the same time, you're not in business. You're going to go backwards. So you have to. Absolutely.
And you also do emergency work. He was at my Marketing ROI live event, and I know you had to leave or something and then come back.
Yeah, it was actually for emergency work. Yeah, it was one of the complexes.
What happened?
It was actually a tree had broken and fallen on it. I remember it. Yep. Yeah, that's what the downfall to it, I guess, essentially some guys don't like, is that you are on call 24 hours of your life, but it's worth it in my opinion.
He's like legit wearing his hoodie right now. I bet you. Yeah, so, but that's cool. So you got the bucket truck this summer.
Yep.
I mean, you were dead serious, fired up, and
yeah, we're pushing for some other pieces of equipment too. If all goes as planned, there'll be more coming out.
What if a guy's like, he just has his truck and some chainsaws, or maybe a dump trailer? How do you take on bigger work? Like, you team up with friends. You got this one friend that he's got that spider lift or whatever. How does that all work out?
I like it, to be honest with you. I sub out a lot of work, and in my opinion, by doing so, I keep a good group of guys that are skilled in their profession around me, and then when we have bigger jobs, we can accomplish it together. Everything gets done, I guess you could say, essentially in a timely manner, because everybody knows truthfully what they're doing. They're not just sitting there kind of messing around. So it works out. It's a lot more efficient than having 5 or 6 underpaid people. I'd rather just have experienced individuals that know their worth be on the job site with me. Everything goes smoother. Then I'm not a big babysitter. Nobody's really interested in doing that.
So there's one thing I want to ask you is bottlenecks. I know sometimes we're out on a job, we don't talk too much when we're working, but when we do, you'll talk about something that's frustrating you. Like, what is a bottleneck in your business that once you open that up, things will just start moving a lot faster?
Realistically, equipment-wise was one of our biggest hurdles, and we've actually accomplished some of that this year. So realistically, the biggest bottleneck I think we have right now is that we have had a pretty large amount of growth. By doing so, getting skilled individuals in them same places, essentially implementing everybody into the position they need to be in, is where we're at right now. It's kind of building the entire team to grow again. So we're going to get bigger. People
and equipment.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One thing that you called me up during the fall, and you had this whole complex, a condo complex, and so you had us come and paid my day rate, and then next thing I know, I'm sitting here dragging brush for fucking 8 hours, exhausted. I'm like, well, how would you put a dingo or like a something on it without messing up the lawn so you could drag brush way faster? Because we had piles of brush, we're trimming all those trees, and you were coming around with the chipper, chipping it all up.
Yep.
We all were working in groups. How do you speed something like that up, like a complex?
There's a lot of ways. Like actually, with the trucks and the equipment that we have to drive on lawns, I actually bought their Alterna mats is what they are. They're sheets that you can actually drive over. It disperses the weight of equipment, so you don't have a footprint anymore. So across lawns, things like that, you're no longer destroying anything.
Dude, I gotta do this. I had this dope idea. You ever seen the Segway Mini Pro?
Yeah.
It's like, but it's got the bigger wheels on it. You ride this thing around like through airports. If we had a Segway, we could probably drag the brush like at 10 miles an hour to the chipper, and we'd be like riding around like guys. We could put on helmets and shit and like have like, be futuristic tree guys or whatever.
It's awesome.
I come up with some fucked up shit, man. So, okay, so you're at the point now where you're turning down jobs. Cause,
not on purpose, but yeah, some of them you have to.
Dude, I remember like 4 years ago, I was quoting this maple. It was going up over this dude's nice ass privacy fence, and like it needed to be trimmed. And I called you up, and I was like, "Hey, man, you want to help me do this?" You're like, "I'm like, I already quoted it," and you're like, "How much you quote it for?" I was like $750, and you're like, "Are you out of your fucking mind?"
I remember.
You literally left. I thought you were never gonna talk to me ever again. Like this guy's out of his.
It's awesome.
So
yeah, but that one in general, yeah. I remember that tree.
So you're turning jobs down. Talk about that in your minimum prices now.
Yeah, I mean, your minimum has to meet essentially what your minimum is. Everybody should know that. I mean, realistically, as a business owner, you should know what you need to do to be profitable and to operate and pay your expenses, your guys, everything else, your insurances, whatever need to be. But turning down work, I mean, realistically, yeah, I don't do it intentionally, but sometimes with the workload, yeah, right now we just, instead of growing and essentially ruining our name at that point, I would rather turn down a job and keep everything exactly how it is instead of tarnishing the business's name to take on things that we're not able to do at the same time. We're just truthfully that busy at this point, which is a good place to be. We've never been there before. This is the first, I'd say, our first year absolutely that we're able to turn down work. And I'm not talking like $100, $200 jobs. You're talking.
What's this, your third or fourth year?
This would be my fifth, I believe, going into my fifth.
Dude, time flies. It's kind of
yeah.
scary. But what's interesting, I want to kind of put a spotlight on is, because I've said, man, how are you getting all these complexes?
Just so everybody's clear, I've been doing tree work 11 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's not get that out of the way.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it's also your sense of certainty. Like when you talk to customers, I've watched you talk to customers, and you're just dead certain. Like the customer can picture you doing it. You don't have any doubt at all. So they trust you.
Yeah, I mean,
you're a man of your word.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer if you stand behind your word, no matter what, even if it costs you money, stand behind your word, because that customer that cost you money is going to respect you enough to send you everybody they know. At the end of the day, that couple $100 or even if it's $1,000, I don't give a shit what you got to pay. Cough it up, because at the end of the day, it's going to benefit you. Because now that person's going to say, hey, this guy stuck behind himself, and this is what he did. Stand-up company. There was like I don't remember the exact numbers, but years ago, when I worked for Chrysler, actually, they were talking about that. It was like for every one person that you upset, they're going to tell 10, 15 people. For every person that's happy, they're only going to tell 2 or 3. So, I mean, the level of how you can destroy yourself is much faster if you don't stand behind your word.
For sure. Absolutely.
It's huge. Why not? I enjoy having, just like you do. Somebody calls you, they know that, hey, if he says he's going to be there at a certain time, you're going to be there. It's a good thing.
Oh, you know what? I want to talk about in a minute gear, and if guys are thinking lawn and landscape guys that want to get into tree work, first of all, it's really dangerous, but all the gear that you use. But I want to tell a quick story, because he was just talking about integrity and your word is your worth, your worth is your word. I bought a dump trailer, and we're at the dump, and so I open the one door and I latch it. The guy who works for me, he opens the door, he latches it. Well, I don't know what he was thinking. He didn't latch the door, and this motherfucker. I'm like, why is it not pulling forward? What's going on? And then he goes, we got a problem. And I go around, the motherfucker looks like a Lamborghini door. It's like that. It's sticking straight up. I was like, dude, I just bought this thing. So The guy at the dump we go to had a loader. I'm like, I need you to come take the loader and smash the door back down because I couldn't even drive. It had been going in traffic like this. So, so he managed to bend it down to the point where we could actually just close it. And I was like, whatever, bro. And the metal's all kinked, but it closed again. And then you had like this job and you needed an extra piece of equipment. You're like, hey, I'll throw you a couple $100 if I could use your dump trailer. So he calls me up the next day. He's like, I don't know how I did it, but I bent the door on your dump trailer. So I dropped it off at the shop and I paid to get it fixed. They're re-welding and fixing it. I was like, wait, you didn't break that. We broke it. And you're like, I thought.
Yeah. I thought it latched when it had happened.
He thought somehow he had
up.
did it, but he didn't know how. So he had already dropped it off and paid to get the thing fixed without even telling me. I was like, okay, cool. We're even, I guess. But, I mean, dude, you're a stand-up dude, man. Like shit like that.
It's a good thing. Same with you. Absolutely. Good group of people that we're fortunate to have around us. Absolutely.
So, equipment. What are you climbing with? What are you using? Your carabiners, your gear?
Yeah, I climb on an open system, which is a newer way of doing it, obviously. The open system is just a little bit different. Closed system, you're just not using all the attachments, essentially, or a proof-stick. Slightly different. I like it better because you can stay 100% tied in. That's a big difference, in my opinion. Safety. You're never
100% tied in.
Yeah, at all times you're always in your harnesses. You're never freely climbing because some guys will actually attempt to do so to go around limbs, which is pretty foolish.
On this last group of jobs we did, I had to take down this maple. You had to go to the dump, so I didn't have my gear with me. I used yours. Yep. And I was in the tree, and I was like, this is dope. There's a prusik, and all I had to do was just pull the tail end of the lifeline going through the carabiner. Yeah. And literally it was just tightening up the slack for me. It was like, oh.
Yeah, it's night and day difference.
You got to set me up with that.
For sure.
Now, what about that versus like a, what's that called, a Petzl?
Yeah, there's what's that called, zigzag. That's a shock about. It's just mechanical. It's a mechanical prusik. Same exact concept. One's just a cinching knot because essentially it's a rope. The other's just going to be a mechanical. And that's what a zigzag would be. Mm-hmm. I've never used one, to be honest with you. I've heard good things about them, though. There's plenty of people that do like them.
Where do you get all your tree gear at?
A lot of it just depends. I go through Tree Stuff, Bartlett. There's
treestuff.com?
Yep.
Bartlett?
Yep, Bartlett Manufacturing. They're a big one. I actually used to work for them, so obviously.
Oh, no shit.
Cap'n owns
Tree Service, okay.
Some of it. Yep. Yeah, so Cap'n, actually that's why I deal with them quite a bit still. They're good guys.
Then there's Cheryl Tree. There's a bunch of them.
Cheryl, yeah, I get a bunch of stuff from them as well. It just depends where you have to order things from. Some of them specialize in other things. It's not that one's that better than another. They're all quality. They definitely test everything, make sure it's right. But at the end of the day, they're all comparable. It's just who has what in stock sometimes. It's not a comparison of who's who.
So climbing trees and taking trees down is second nature to you. If a guy wants to get into tree work, can you talk about how that's a smart? I mean, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. It's a stupid idea if they're doing it just to make more money, and the safety aspects and how, like, what direction should a guy go if he wants to get into this shit?
It's personal preference. There's some guys that even work with us that right now I believe should be they're in different positions. Some are arborists because obviously they can't do as well in tree work. So if they lack in that, then obviously they may excel in something else. I've always tried to play on people's strengths. That's a big key in my opinion. Don't worry about what someone's weaknesses are. Play on their strengths, because if you play on their strengths, they'll be that much better at that position, and it works. And I think a lot of guys don't realize that. Like, you have employers and things like that. They're like, oh, yeah, this guy sucks at this. Well, why don't you look at something else? Maybe he has a different place in your company. He's not where he should be.
So if a guy specifically, he's like, I want to start climbing and trimming trees.
I'll be more than happy to teach somebody if you truthfully enjoy it or if you want to learn. Absolutely. You know, you're on job sites with me. I'll slow down every time I need to. I don't care how busy we are to show you what you need to know. Absolutely. The more educated everybody is, the better off everyone is.
Where can a guy go to learn how to tie knots and shit?
That's tough.
I mean, you told me that you had a piece of rope with you when you were like...
I used to do it 100%. Yeah, there's a lot of times I actually would sit in the DT trucks, actually, when I was on storm work, if we had any type of downtime, or if we were on standby, I would actually sit there and just teach myself all the knots over and over when I was
in the truck, in standby, you'd be practicing knots.
Yeah, I remember the handle for the truck. I used to put it through there and loop it.
I got to tell you guys this story. This was like 3 weeks ago. I had this locust tree trim, and so I trim trees. I do it all, but I don't really do it all. I got up on this roof. It was totally different. It was freezing out. The wood was brittle. It was locust. We're in Michigan, and I'm like, I can't do this job. It was going up over a house, bro. Just like I went to trim it, and the wood was just crumbling and falling all over the customer's backyard. It was different than shit I usually do. Like a maple, the shit just peels down, and it's a lot more easy to manipulate. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, man, you want a tree job? I don't want it. You can have it. I got to go. So he's like, no, we only have a half a day today. Randomly, something got moved around. I can be there in an hour, and we'll do it. I was like, no, I'm good. You're like, no, we'll be there in an hour. So his he shows up with this whole crew, and now I'm like, I feel like we're like styling because he shows up in a big ass bucket truck with a chipper, and guys hop out, and the customers are home in the house. So he puts the bucket truck right up to the front of the garage and reaches over the house to start trimming the tree, but the bucket goes, motherfucker stops. Like, he couldn't get all the way, because I thought I was just going to sit there and just get a free ride. I'm just telling the truth. Like, you was going to take care of all the hard part for me. I'm like, I'll go up and I'll trim all the easy shit. He can get here and trim the hard shit. So you're like, Kelphus, you want to tell a story, bro? I'm like, I'm not trying to talk to him. I know you don't do podcasts and you're not on fucking cameras every day.
No, you're good. I'm just listening. It's funny. Actually, just sitting back.
So I'm up in the tree. I'm all geared up. There's guys on the ground. I got the saw, everything. And he's like, Kelphus, I can't reach this shit. Big fucking branches. He's like, we're going to have to work together, Kelphus. I'm like, what? I thought. So we got to rope all this shit down. And you're basically like stovepiping this branch, so it has to drop down. We had to put 3 ropes on one branch, one going over the crotch of the tree, like through a gin. Another one, it's a tag line, and then another line connecting it so it doesn't slam into the house and destroy the property. 3 guys on 3 ropes, and then I'm also up in the tree, right? All right, guys, the battery died on the camera, but we're back. So telling the story, I'm up in a locust tree. He's over the house. I called him up to come help me with the tree job about 3-4 weeks ago, and there's guys on the ground with ropes, and I am like not prepared to cut this huge branch going over a house. So we had a tag line on one branch, another a tag line on the tree, stovepipe, bring it down, blah blah. There's guys on ropes. I go to make the cut. I'm scared, and I'm like, Cris, I can't do this. I need you to come up and trade places with me, bro. And he's like, it's not even about that, Kelphus. And I'm up in a tree. It's freezing. I'm being a bitch, right? And in that moment, I'm like, this is it, bro. This is where I lose my business. This is where I end up in a courtroom. This branch is going to go through this house. And he wouldn't let me off the hook. I'm in the tree. The guys are on the ropes. And I don't know if they knew I was scared or not, but I made the cut. And Cris is like, 1 second. He comes down from the bucket truck. He gets on a rope as well. So there's 4 guys on the ground on ropes. And then they all pull. And I do a snap cut. This branch just comes loose. And I'm all geared up. And it's just perfectly out into the property. Like, it all worked out. And I was like, oh. And I'm on the phone with him after. You're like, good job, Kelphus. So, but you told me something. You were like, do you think I would set you up to fail, Keith? And you wouldn't. You wouldn't even put me in that position, right? Outside of my comfort zone up in a tree. But you also told me how you were in that position and you wanted to weasel out, and the guys that you work with wouldn't let you. And that's why you're where you're at today, because
it's true.
You faced it. Talk about that.
100%. Yeah, I was in the same position, essentially, when I was an apprentice, absolutely. Yeah, I remember clearly. I was in a position, and I actually told the foreman that was actually on the ground for me at the time. I told him, I was like, I don't know who does this stupid shit for a living, but it's not me. And I considered leaving.
Paint the picture. You were up in the tree, or what was it?
Oh, yeah, it was a big tree, too. Yeah, it was over the top primary lines. It was whatever, 7 or 14,000 or 7,000. It would be 13,200 volts would be what it was, is the lines that would be underneath you. But yeah, long story short, it was the same thing. It was a piece that needed to be peeled straight back and then have to come down extremely controlled because it was really close to the lines. And it was funny because he's the same thing. I was like, well, why don't you come up here and you can help me? And he's like, I'm not grabbing shit. He's like, you're going to make that cut. And it's exactly what he said. And to this day, I'm like, man, I hate this guy. He's like trying to get me killed or something. That's what I was thinking in my head, you know. But at the end of the day, when I finished my apprenticeship, I realized the person that had trained me pushed me to become better, not to make me anything else. And it was huge. It was a noticeable difference at the point when I had topped out between others.
Because when you're up in a tree and you're doing something you've never done before, and the physics say it's going to do this.
Yeah. Physics is a big thing with tree work, I think. Absolutely. The way it's going to, the pieces are going to come off, how it's going to swing. You have to take a lot into account when doing so. I truthfully believe that is a big part of tree work is physics. Absolutely. But it's funny at the end of the day being in that position because I sat there when I was looking over at you and I was like, I'm doing exactly for you what somebody did for me. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing it for you. I know it'll work. I'm positive I've done it hundreds of times before. But I just wanted to make sure that you're more comfortable. So now next time any of that ever to ever come about, you now know what to do. You won't be scared of it.
Trust me, if you don't do tree work and you were in my shoes and you're up in a tree and we're talking a branch going over a house, that the thing could literally go through the customer's house. You got guys on ropes, and it was just something I wasn't comfortable with. And even after coming down, I don't know if I felt accomplished or if I felt relieved.
Makes
Because
you still alive.
in those moments in your business when you do something like
awesome.
you almost did something that could have put you in a courtroom, or I'm like an extreme type thinker. I think of the worst case scenario, and some of us do that. You're like, how many times do I want to put myself in that situation?
Yeah.
But it's not even like that with you.
No, it gets to a point to where you become more comfortable with it. Now you're become a professional at what you do, so you're not questioning it. You don't think, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? You know realistically what 99% of the time should happen. So it's a big difference. You're no longer questioning things. You're working off of confidence instead of questioning, which is a big difference. You'd be surprised what you can do.
Yeah.
That's true.
So what's your next step? 2019, dude. You're crushing it. Are you working during the winter? Are you?
The last couple of weeks, to be honest, we've taken off, but that's because we're trying to finalize a lot of stuff with the office, paperwork, taxes, things like that. Get everything done before the next season. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 2019, my plan is just keep going, get bigger again.
I really want to buy a dingo or ditch witch. You're trying to buy a straight up track loader.
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna purchase. That'll be probably our next purchase. Absolutely.
Why? Because you can pick up big logs with it or something?
Yeah, for me, I do a lot of big removal, so at the end of the day, I'm not going to cut pieces of wood into small little chunks all day long. I'd rather just be able to grab half the tree and take it with me. It's more efficient. And as you grow, you in an industry that is time-consuming, you need to make it as efficient as possible.
Dude, when we worked on that street and we ended up leapfrogging on the whole street, we did like 8 customers or something in 2 days. I don't know what it was, but the neighbors just kept coming out, and it was amazing. Like, okay, we're doing that pine next for that neighbor, and before I knew it, you were up in the tree dropping it. We were throwing that shit in the chipper, taking it down, cleaning up, done. Then we do another neighbor, just dropping trees, and just, it was so fast.
Yeah, it's a couple-day period. So it was like 2 days, right? I think that's what we were out there, 2 days total, but it was like 8 houses, something like that. Worth everybody's time.
Like, you can make money so fast when you have the right equipment.
When you're efficient, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. When you can take something that's very strenuous and become efficient with it, big game changer. I mean, that's what the bigger pieces of equipment are for.
Now, what about the equipment that you like? You got the big boom truck. I know you put a big chunk down, and now you're going to pay it off real quick. So, how do you look at risk versus buying equipment? Do you not even look at it as a risk? How do you look at it?
Assets. If it's something that's more efficient and can make the company more profitable, it's an asset. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you have it? My goal is not to stay small mom and pop's company. I'd like to be a powerhouse in my industry. So by doing so, you have to make the right moves, and it sure as hell's not going to happen with a little pickup truck. So.
Yeah, dude. One thing that I am really impressed with by you is when I saw your garage, I saw your equipment, the inside of your trucks, all the bins and compartments. You are organized to the point of It's so impressive. Like, how did you learn that skill, or where did that come from?
It's just something that always stuck with me. Actually, to be honest with you, there's one thing that really stuck
Like,
with me.
he's like the dude that folds up the tarps all perfect and the ropes and everything's in its place before he even takes a step to the next thing.
Pretty much. Yeah, I don't like working with like clutter underneath.
Let me know in
me.
the comments below if you're very organized. I'm sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. I just don't like working around clutter. I feel like when people are working on the ground, things like that, if you're tripping over stuff constantly, it's just another hazard, liability. I don't know, in my opinion, it's ignorant by all means. It's just asking for something to go wrong. But yeah, when it comes to cleanliness, yeah, I don't let people destroy any of our stuff. Absolutely.
So if a guy's undercharging, underquoting jobs, and then he's rushing, then that's cleanliness would be one of the first things to go. Maybe if you're so pressed for time, do you like? Does that make sense?
Well, if you don't have enough time, then you just get somebody to do it for you. I have guys that actually, like for cleaning the trucks, I mean, the bucket trucks, they're just too big. You can't take it to a car wash. So by all means, yeah, there's a company that comes out right there at the yard and they'll clean the truck. So I don't have to do anything. Once every few weeks, the truck's cleaned out. But I mean, I have to clean the insides, things like that. But once you get, I used to do that all myself, 100%, Keith. You know,
Do you hire a company to come power wash the whole truck and clean it?
absolutely. Yeah, because for the small amount that you pay, I save myself hours and I can be elsewhere generating either more business or clients, things like that for the business. For me, in my opinion, the $50, $60 or whatnot that it costs you to have a truck washed one time, well, I mean, what does that cost you realistically? If I'm gone for half of a day to wash that truck and I could have been elsewhere, it's a big difference.
Sweet, sweet. And then your radius. How far out are you willing to work?
We do Oakland and Macomb County, but realistically, we do a lot more Macomb. I'm sorry. We have other contracts that I have to travel outside of there, but yeah, we try to stay within I'd say 15, 20 miles. To be honest with you, very small cases will go outside of it, but by doing so, yeah, the trucks, everything else, the equipment, the wear and tear, it's just not worth it to me at that point to start traveling way outside of our area. And then even that, you can't be as competitive. It's hard to be competitive or even be within the same realm as somebody else when you have to factor in different expenses.
Okay, and then just to wrap up here, you do you care for people to look you up on social media? Do you got an Instagram or anything like that?
Yeah, there's Instagram for Tree Solutions, and then there's also a Facebook.
So at Tree Solutions,
Yes.
and you'll see that
Tree
logo.
Solutions MI. Yeah, it'd be this logo. It's
Tree Solutions MI.
Yep. Yeah, you can find the same thing. It's treesolutionsmi.com as well. It's a
Cool.
website.
And I'm going to put a couple links to a couple Instagram posts below this video in the description. Or if you're listening on the podcast on Spreaker, Anchor FM, SoundCloud, iTunes, or any podcast station, you can actually listen to these podcasts instead of watching on the video. I'll put a couple links below some videos of him doing some pretty badass shit, dude. Awesome.
Awesome.
Anything else you want to talk about, dog?
Nothing. Just happy to be here with you, brother. It was a pleasure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, that's it. Because I could talk to you for 10 hours, man. I just think it's awesome. This dude's literally, he goes to the gym in between doing tree work. He's like, he's literally shredded, bro. Like, the dude's like shredded. And I don't know, dude. I literally don't have that amount of energy to work out and fucking do tree work. It's crazy. All right, peace.